Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for coming to our Pathways to Stability Town Hall. We're really excited to kind of give you guys an update of everything that's been going on because it's been moving at such quick pace. We thought it was time to just be able to give you the most current information and also to be able to field some questions as far as that you might have that we don't answer during the presentation. So as you can see, we have a bunch of the community partners and people who are involved with this up here to be able to fill their particular expertise as far as the questions go. So, and you know, we all know, living in Josephine County and Grants Pass, that the issue of homelessness is huge, isn't it? We're famous for it, let's be honest. And you know, but the thing about it is homelessness in our community is absolutely solvable. We can solve it, and what it's going to require is collaboration with all of us. And that's the beauty about this initiative that we're going to give information about tonight, is that's exactly what it is. It's not one particular group or one particular organization that is going to be able to solve this by themselves, but it's going to be all of us heading in the same direction, relying on each other's gifts to be able to do it. And so we're really excited about tonight to be able to give you this information. We're really excited that there's so many of you who have the same mindset as far as that goes, and that are willing to spend a couple hours of your time to kind of get involved and educated on what's going on in our community. So thank you for that. And after all, since this is a church, I wanted to read one verse that applies to us whether you have faith or you don't. And it's from the Gospel of Matthew. It says, "The king will reply, 'Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.'" And you know, that's who we're here for, right? You know, those who are unhoused in our society are often marginalized. And we want to see them to be able to, you know, break free from homelessness, the cycle of homelessness, etc. And we're there for them. There's other things, of course, we all could be doing. And the goal of this committee and the goal of Pathways to Stability is to literally work ourselves out of a job, where a program like this is not needed, that we can make homelessness solvable, or when it does happen, it's rare and very brief. It's been done in other places, and that's our intention for here in Grants Pass also. So if you would, we're just going to ask God's blessing on the service, and then I'm going to turn it over to Julie for the introduction. So Lord, we come before you, and God, we're thankful that you have us all here for a moment like this, Lord, to be able to serve those that are so marginalized in our community. Lord, we know all of the issues that are around the homelessness, the lawsuits, the crime, whatever it is, Lord. But God, we know that you're bigger than all of it. And so, Lord, we ask your favor now as we move forward to solve homelessness in our community. And it's in Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. Julie?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. We'll just cover a little bit of housekeeping and ground rules real quick, and then we'll get started. We do have a full agenda, and we want to make sure that you have plenty of time to ask us questions, anything that we weren't able to clarify along the way. Please make sure to turn your phones on silent or vibrate, and if you need to take a call, of course, feel free. A lot of you are really important people. I would just ask you to head out to the lobby. The restrooms are over in the hallway over here to your left. Help yourself to any refreshments on both sides. And Pastor Kevin said it's okay to eat in here, which is a pretty cool church, I think. There's also a handout out there. There's a packet that talks a little bit more about Pathways to Stability. I'd love for you to take that home with you. And there's 3x5 cards out there because we didn't know if we were going to have 20 or 500 here. So we're okay with fire code so far. But there's 3x5 cards. So as we're presenting, please fill out those cards with questions that you have. And then that way, that'll streamline that process as well. So we're not waiting for people to come up and wait and that kind of stuff. The ground rules is we really want to be courteous because we have a lot to discuss. We're really excited about what we're talking about and what we're going to be proposing. At the same time, we know that it's a highly charged topic everywhere, not just in our community. So we want to be courteous of each presenter and not to interrupt. We will have the Q&A time, so please do get those questions ready, and we'll collect those on break. If times allow and we are able to open up for more questions, then we just ask that you raise your hand and I'll make sure to absolutely call on you. And then we have a microphone set up here if somebody wants to come up so that they can be better heard. Always be respectful and diplomatic, please. This is a church, so if nothing else, that'll hold us a little bit accountable. This is a nonpartisan problem. Even in our community, it's a nonpartisan problem. So we're going to keep politics out of it. What we want to do is focus on our common goal, our common ground. And our common ground, besides working ourselves out of a job, is to have a safe community, a healthy community for everybody. No matter our politics, no matter our faith, no matter what we do for a living, we can all agree that we came here because we wanted to live in a safe community. And that's what we're here to talk about. Ways that we can absolutely do that. So I'm going to give you a very brief history about kind of how we got here, and I know everybody here is living and breathing it, so they know, but those who may be from out of the area. So what's been the problem? Our community has been relatively safe for years and years and years, and then all of a sudden in the last few years, it didn't seem like so much. The crisis includes lack of affordable housing, unhoused people camping in our parks and on our streets, increase in people overdosing on drugs, people struggling with mental health issues and no place to go, people sleeping in their cars, people being assaulted, robbed, other crimes, victims, just a horrible situation. There's some contributing factors to that. Part of it is we have a nationwide issue. There's a lot of communities that don't, but it is a nationwide issue, part of it, so we're not immune to that. But also, as everybody knows, we were put under a court-ordered injunction a few years ago, and what that did is it tied the hands of the city and law enforcement to be able to control public spaces. So now all of a sudden, and I've been here since the 70s, we've never had people camping in our parks. We've never even had people parking their cars overnight in the parks. And then public spaces, businesses could manage their public spaces, the city could manage public spaces, police could manage that. That was all taken away during that initial injunction. And as you know, we're back under another one, which is really painful for our community. It's not healthy, and it's really hindering us from being able to do the great work that we want to do. We understand that there's issues, but yeah, it's been really challenging. And then Oregon Measure 110, I was actually one of the people that voted on that because I believe prevention is priceless, and Measure 110 specifically stated that the money was not going to go to jail beds. It was going to go to prevention. It was going to go for prevention programs. It was going to go for getting people the treatment that they need, increase in bed spaces that we need for residential treatment. And that didn't happen for a really long time. So now what we have and what we've had is people who are able to do drugs right in front of a police officer, right in front of the community. They can possess everything from methamphetamine, heroin, fentanyl. Very, very difficult. And we have so many amazing nonprofits that are working to get people into treatment, get them clean and sober and back into a healthy, safe community. But they're overloaded. So that's not all. As you know, we have virtually no available housing. What housing we have is no longer affordable. Even a small one-bedroom apartment can be as much as $1,200 a month now. So even somebody with a two-income family has a really difficult time finding housing in our community. And of course, those most affected are those with lower and fixed incomes, like our young families, our workforce, and our seniors. And also compounding the problem, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. There's people, and in my background, it was my job to work with those people and deal with the people, is those who have chosen the lifestyle that gives them freedom to do what they want. They can come and go as they please, whether it causes problems for the community or creates hate and discontent. it exists, and when you're in the situation that we've been, that really is magnified and thrives. We're all human beings. We all have to have consequences for our actions, and when those consequences go away, even the best of us could maybe not make the best decisions all the time. And many of those individuals, as you know, are involved in criminal activity, making community members feel unsafe. We know that homelessness is a multifaceted problem, and if you look at this wheel with the spokes, the center of the wheel is homelessness, and each of the spokes represent one of the causes, one of the contributing factors to homelessness. And we as a community and other places have tried really hard to deal with homelessness in the past, and what we did is we focused on one area, and the one area, when that one area didn't go through, it just collapsed and everybody went home and the conversation didn't continue. We've learned in our community that we have to hit this wheel in many different places at the same time. We can't just have housing and not deal with addiction or mental illness. We can't just deal with the lack of job and not impact the other things. So as a wheel, we need to do it at the same time, consecutively, to make sure that whatever our solutions are sustainable. We're not putting Band-Aids on anything. We're actually coming up with long-term solutions because we're looking at the causes of the problem. We can't do it alone, right? Law enforcement can't do it, the city can't do it, a nonprofit can't do it alone. Each of those spokes have what we call stakeholders or key people who are responsible in those areas. We have so many homeless kids going to school, and so we need teachers and we need school counselors and parents, and you can see the different spokes where we have government, we have ADA, financial counseling and education, peer counseling, treatment. It's going to require, like Jeremy always says, it's a community-wide problem that's going to require community-wide solutions. So I told you the what and the now what, or the what. What's the so what? We have to do something now. The problem is not getting better. We have all these hardworking people up here that are changing lives, saving lives every single day, and the problem continues to grow. We have to take this seriously as a community. We have to all work together to make that happen. We've already lost residents. We've already lost businesses. We've lost families. We've lost children out of our schools. We've lost tourism. We've lost our reputation of being an amazing place to come any time of year. We've lost our reputation of being a safe, small town where you could actually, I don't recommend it, but you could actually leave your keys in the ignition overnight. I was here in the 70s when people did that, and the neighbor would just come over and borrow the car, no big deal, just bring it back. And the other thing that I see, and I know some of you are living and breathing it, is that when you feel helpless, then you get angry and you get frustrated and you know that something needs to be done and you have no idea what to do. This is a huge problem. People go, it's so big, it's unmanageable, we can't do anything, so we either bury our heads in the sand or we leave, or we ignore it. That's not okay. We can't let that continue to happen. I know from experience that one of the fastest ways for a community to decline is to have good people move away, leaving a vacuum, letting crime and chaos thrive. We can't let that happen. You've been through ghost towns, especially after COVID, ghost towns where the businesses are empty, and they're just a den of crime is what's happened. So that's a little bit of our history, but that's not where we are today. Now you're going to hear where we are today. I will kick off this portion. Each of us will have 5 minutes. We have amazing nonprofits up here that are working in this arena every single day. They're doing amazing work, and they're so busy doing it, you probably don't even get to hear what they're doing. So I've put them on the spot, asked them to please present. So I'll start with PATH. I'm the president of PATH, so I put my hat on. And about 2 years ago, a small group of concerned citizens got together and said, what we're doing is not working, how can we help? Those conversations have continued over the last 2 years, and we are super, super excited to be able to make the impacts that we are in support of the work, the good work that's already being done. The name is called PATH, Partners Assisting the Homeless. And our mission statement is this: we collaborate with our community partners to find sustainable solutions to help people transition from homelessness to a self-sufficient future in Josephine County. We can all agree on that, right? That's what we want for our community. We do a lot, and I'm only going to take 2 minutes because I want them to have more time. What PATH members do is we support local community partners to fill gaps where needed. So we met with every one of the community partners that local nonprofits that we knew were working in the arena, sat down and asked them, what are you doing? What's the demographic? What services do you provide? Where are the gaps? How can we help? Volunteerism, giving, getting creative, thinking outside the box, any way to support their work so that they can succeed in their mission. Facilitate the collaboration between partners to reduce duplication and increase effectiveness. We work on that every day, and we work on it every month deliberately. We make connections between those in need and those resources available to assist. It's heartbreaking when you know somebody has a need and they don't know that the resource is right there. And so by making that connection, we feel like we're able to make a difference. And we meet with local stakeholders, government officials, law enforcement, and community partners to discuss best practices going forward to make great impacts. What we want to do is we don't want to duplicate, we don't want to overlap, we don't want to undo anything. What we want to do is build off the great work that's being done so that we have more sustainable solutions in the end. So without further ado, my agenda says that Dr. Scott Nelson, who is the board president of Mint, will go next. There you go.
Good evening. I'm Scott Nelson. I am the board president of Mint, and I'll just give you a brief update and a little history on our organization. So Mint was started about two and a half years ago by Cassie Leach, who was a nurse. It actually began during COVID. She was instrumental in providing vaccinations for individuals during COVID and felt that there was a need for the unhoused to also be vaccinated. So she actually took her wagon with her vaccines and went out into the parks and asked if anybody would like them, and that's how Mint actually began. It has grown into an organization that is now encompassing more services, and I am a physician. We have multiple medical physicians and other medical professionals on our board and our staff, and we try to bridge the gap by providing health care and connecting people to other services that will help them get off the streets. We recognize in the healthcare industry that a large proportion of our emergency room visits and services that are utilized in our hospitals are from our unhoused. That drives up the cost for the hospital system, but also for each of us as consumers of healthcare. We also recognize that they have an inequity in receiving health care, and so we are trying to bridge that gap. Mint has recently purchased a building. It is the Parker's Furniture Place near the park, and we have turned that into what we call a navigation center, where we partner with many other organizations, many of whom are at this table today, and try to connect the unhoused individuals with services that will help them find more stable or permanent housing. I'm happy to report that on average every month we are placing about 8 individuals into homes of some sort, and so that's been a huge blessing for them, and for us it makes us feel really good as an organization that we are helping to eliminate at least one more person being on the streets. So we are continuing to grow and partner. We're very excited to be part of this conversation. I'm ecstatic that I see so many people here who want to help solve this issue. We do as well, and we're looking forward to continued partnership and growth as we move forward. So thank you.
Dr. Nelson, thank you very much. And next on the list is Holly Fifield, Director of Housing Stability from UCAN. You're on.
Is it working? Perfect. I'm Holly Fifield. I work at UCAN. I'm the director over there. I've been at UCAN for 11 years. I've lived in Grants Pass my entire life. I was born and raised here. I have seen it go from a small town and beautiful and everybody wanted to live here to where we are today, which I mean is a very obvious situation that we're in, and we want to work however we can with community partners and the community in general to make some kind of solution to get us back where we were before. But what I'm going to talk about is more what UCAN's doing, just so that you guys can get an idea of where we're at and what we do every day. Our main focus in our housing stabilization programs is what I oversee is the rental assistance, deposit assistance, case management, veteran services, shelter programs through 5 different counties. Those counties include Josephine and Douglas, Klamath, Lake, and Coos County. Our main focus has been through prevention. We want to prevent individuals from becoming housing, so a lot of what we do is trying to stabilize people in housing. With the executive orders that came down, I know everybody is aware of some of the funding that we have received. When that funding came through, the main goal was to house individuals straight off the streets. Our initial goal was to house 34 individuals, which for us was even like 34, that's so low, but we understood with the housing market that it was going to be more difficult. We actually ended up housing 172, which is just an incredible achievement, especially in a community with such low housing. So I mean, we're doing the work, we're out there, we are working closely with each of the agencies to see where we sit, where do we live, what are we doing, how can we help? We are the Community Action. UCAN has been operational since 1964, so we've been doing this work for quite a while, and it's obvious that even being operational for that long, there's still a problem, right? We still exist. So it's been that long that it's been happening. I'm not saying that the homeless crisis was that bad back then, but we did always have housing problems, low income, serving TAMNA families. And our programs focus on each individual demographic separately. Our criteria to receive funding is different for every funding source. So when people say it's difficult to get in there and get information, I'm sure somebody here has heard that. It's more about the flux, the capacity, the amount of people coming in looking for services, and the criteria is so different. And we want to make sure that everybody fits into something that actually fits their situation. And so that's what we do, is we make sure that everybody gets an individual look at what their situation is. But most of our focus, like I said, is prevention. So we do a lot of eviction prevention. We make sure that households are being served as quick as possible, and sometimes that's not always at a high, rate, just because of how much work it takes to actually get there and work with landlords. And so I will say this last year we were able to prevent. It's on here. Give me a minute. 786 households from losing their housing. We put 529 individuals into housing. We paid 529 deposits into housing. We've paid 21 mortgage payments. 340 of those individuals put into housing were veterans. We've worked with, most of our individuals that we've worked with have a disabling condition of some sort. So it's, for us, we are far more intense when it comes to sorting out what each individual needs, and we want them to do the work. We want to make sure that if we put somebody into housing, that they're going to sustain that housing, and so we want to make sure that the tools we're giving them are life skills, being good tenants. We do offer tenant education as well for anybody that needs it, and we have wait lists for all these things, and it's a constant flow of services. That's not the only thing UCAN does, but it's what I'm good at, and it's what I know the most. But UCAN also in Josephine County does provide utility assistance for people who are struggling to pay their power bill, their gas bill, their propane. They have served over 4,000 people this year with keeping their lights on, which could be really big for somebody. I mean, just getting your power bill paid can put a good couple $100 back in your pocket to pay your rent or get groceries. We have housed, 132 individuals who were fleeing domestic violence. Of course, we work really closely with a lot of our agencies to make sure that we have the right resources and the right protection in place for everybody. We also, and that's not here, but UCAN also is the operator of a navigation center up in Roseburg. I do oversee the navigation center, and we have been open since, I think, July of 2022. It houses 35 individuals on its congregate shelter inside, and we have 10 pods that hold 2 people in each pod. We do keep space for medically fragile individuals, families, if we can. I will say we do try to be careful about placing families into a congregate shelter. We are a no tolerance, low barrier shelter, and when I say no tolerance, I mean that there is no tolerance for substance use or any kind of paraphernalia on site at all. We also do not tolerate any kind of negative, violent, sexual behaviors. That is a no tolerance, and no tolerance means you will be exited. And I say that because I think sitting at this table, it's important for individuals to know that UCAN does have some expert knowledge in what it looks like to run a shelter if that's an option that comes up. But we're pretty excited because I think the solutions that have been brought to us and talked through are like it says, stepping stones in the right direction. And I think that having different pieces of transition to get people from where they are to where they need to be is going to be incredibly important. And I'm really excited to see how many people are sitting here right now to hear like the work that's going to get done. And if I could add anything else, it would just be that we do so much more, UCAN specifically, and I would love to educate anybody that wants to know what we do or how we use our funding. I am an open door person. You are welcome to come to UCAN or give me a call and ask any questions you'd like to. We're happy to let you know what we're doing. There's no hidden agendas. Everything's very transparent. It's just a lot of work and we're always really busy, so sometimes we don't get a lot of words out there, but we would love to do that. So I do want to encourage anything, any questions, if you'd like to be educated on our services.
Thank you very much, Holly. It's hard to stay in 5 minutes, isn't it? Next, we have Tony Mendenhall, the Transitional Living Program Manager for Hearts with a Mission. Tony.
Hi, thank you. Tony Mendenhall. I've spent the last 9 years working at Hearts with a Mission. I have done everything from youth shelter to Safe Families for Children program to now transitional living. So in Grants Pass currently, we have a couple programs. Transitional living program is one of those, where we serve young adults 18 to 22. We have contracts with the state of Oregon and the federal government to provide those services. That's not enough money, by the way, but we're doing it. We have a home up on 9th Street where we house those young adults. They get to stay 540 days with us. The primary focus is really around case management. We have peer support that works with each kid. And then we have skills trainers. Really, what we're doing is really coordinating different organizations to help provide, mental health services, education. We work with each kid on employment. Really, the focus is about getting these kids who have not had a fair shake in life, come from generational poverty, generational addiction, and really try to give them the tools, the skills, the support, the resources to move forward and to be self-sufficient, to heal, which is a big thing, and to see these kids just flourish in their own life. We've been very fortunate to have worked with a lot of kids. We initially opened a shelter for youth in Grants Pass, and most of our referrals were for 18-year-olds. So we started in 2016 up in the First Community Credit Union building that they were very generous in making sure that we had access to. Served kids, 10 to 17, and in 2021 we converted to young adults. So in Grants Pass we've served about 50 kids. In Grants Pass, we have about a 97% success rate in getting kids to self-sufficiency, getting jobs, finishing high school, going to college, going to nail tech school, seeing kids not necessarily reunify with families, but reconcile with families is really part of the healing process. Every kid needs a grandparent for their little ones when they come around, and we're really blessed to see a lot of kids come back and say hi. Just had one last week that I haven't seen in 6 years. Just came back to get a hug and touch bases with us again. So we have a youth shelter currently in Medford. About 30% of those 10 to 17-year-olds come from Joe County. So we're still able to utilize that resource. We have a Safe Families for Children program. It's currently working with about 25 families in Grants Pass. It's primarily a volunteer program. So we vet, recruit volunteers to work and walk alongside these kids and families ages 0 to 24. We also, in Grants Pass, have an independent living program Across both counties, we're working with about 80 kids who are in foster care or have exited foster care to help them learn skills, work on transition planning, to get them to a place where they're self-sufficient and independent and productive members of our community and economy. And so we see a lot of great work being done there, partnering with child welfare. So how am I at for time? We're good? 1 minute? I'll just give you a little bit more background about me. I kind of got into this field in a weird way. It wasn't a matter of I see a community problem and I want to get in there and fix it. My wife and I just had a calling on our life. Took a young lady addicted to heroin into our home. Ended up doing that about 8 more times. And I just found a love and passion for those young people, and changed our life. We started Reclaiming Lives Recovery Cafe in Medford. We host about 300 people a week in recovery circles, in life. They've become our family. And it has completely changed the way I think about addiction, poverty. Like, we have a lot of community problems that start with these young people in their childhood. So it's further reinforced the work I do at Hearts with a Mission. Like, I hear often, we have this addiction problem in our community. I hear more often than not, those addictions start between the ages of 8 and 11. So it's something we can't lose sight of, where we focus on 20, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds. We also need to focus on our children and our families who are going through really hard things.
Tony, thank you very much. Next on our list is Brandy Strom, Josephine County Regional Case Manager for Maslow Project.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay, not great with a mic, so bear with me. I'll talk a little bit about Maslow Project. Brandy Strom, Regional Case Manager here for the Josephine County area. I'm based here in Grants Pass, so I'm kind of the point person for Grants Pass area. So Maslow Project works in both Josephine and Jackson County, helping youth and families who are experiencing some kind of homelessness. And to qualify for our services, it's going to be youth 0 through 24. And then any families or anyone pregnant or parenting or anyone with children in their care in the home who is experiencing some kind of homelessness. And that could be folks that are in, cars, parks, places that are not meant for human habitation, or a lot of what we're seeing right now more and more often is folks that are living with friends or family or just living with others because lack of available affordable housing, which we all know, or losing housing, or something is getting in the way of them qualifying for housing. That's a big part of what we do, is help identify those barriers and break those down and problem solve with them, alongside them. We also provide basic needs, so like food boxes and clothing for the kiddos, hygiene items, school supplies, anything school related. And then, as I mentioned, was intensive case management, and that's one of the most important things that we do, is identify those barriers and help problem solve what those could be. Any barriers to housing, education, employment. Maslow Project was kind of founded on the idea of keeping kiddos in school and getting them reconnected with their education to make sure they can graduate, what diploma, GED, and just helping them be successful. So another program that we have is our outreach team, who goes out into those rural areas to connect with youth and families that may not have access to the resources. Whether that's because lack of transportation, they don't have a working phone. And so it's really nice as we can go out there and bring case management to them, help them get connected with those resources, and just get the identification going and getting them reconnected with whatever it might be they need. A fun story is that recently one of our outreach workers was able to reconnect with a family who's living unsheltered and has been experiencing chronic homelessness for some time, in and out of services. And with the help of another community partner, they wrapped around services and had a young adult re-engage in education, and he's so excited about it. He's getting up at 7 a.m. to go over to Mint's facility actually to work on schooling, and so that was just really rewarding to know that that work is happening out there and it's really working, especially when we all work together to wrap those services around for folks. And we also have some permanent supportive housing programs. And so in partnership with Housing Authority, we have some affordable housing units that are designated for the families that we work with. And what's really amazing about that program is that we continue our intensive case management even after they secure housing. And I believe so far this year, we've housed between the permanent supportive housing and then working with landlords and just being out in the community and helping folks navigating housing, we've been able to help 109 families secure housing and maintain that. So yeah, I just want to highlight how appreciative we are to be here as Maslow Project and appreciative we are of our community partners and other organizations, school districts, and doing this good work together to make sure that we can get folks connected with everything that they need.
Brandy, thank you so much. I know so much about all these guys. I would just go on and flood about all the great work that they're doing, but we'd never get you home tonight. Next, we have Donna Wall, the Executive Director of Dove Ministries. Donna?
Good afternoon. It's an honor for me to be here. My name is Donna Wall, and I'm the director of Dove Ministries. Our organization encompasses the Dove House, a shelter for women, and Compassion in Action, the Bridge of Hope project. The Bridge of Hope is a collaboration of the churches and community partners. Every Wednesday, we actively engage with our community's most vulnerable members. I personally partner with the dedicated team at Southern Oregon Pathways. Together, we go into the trenches to conduct crucial on-the-spot assessments and counseling services for individuals struggling with the challenges of drug and alcohol addiction. Our goal during these encounters is to provide immediate support and resources and offer recommendations that can guide individuals towards recovery and stability. Beyond these assessments, we also address the immediate need for nourishment by providing warm meals to anyone who is hungry. It's a small act that offers dignity and care to those facing hardship. Dove House itself stands as a beacon of hope, offering a safe and supportive residential environment for individuals who are in the critical process of moving out of homelessness. We provide more than just shelter. We offer a pathway for people to regain their footing and access resources to help rebuild their lives with dignity and independence. I'm truly honored to serve our community alongside many of you and other compassionate individuals and organizations. We are called to care for the least among us and to be the voice for the voiceless and to extend a hand to those in need. The work of Dove Ministries and the Bridge of Hope is a direct response to that calling. We believe that through compassion, support, and the grace of God, that lives can be transformed. So let us continue to walk in faith, offering hope and a pathway towards stability and healing, and for those that are hurting. Thank you to all of you for your continued dedication and for the spirit of collaboration that allows us to work together and make a tangible difference in the lives of those that we serve. As I close, I'd like to offer a prayer for those who are hurting and those who are helping. So if you would mind, join me with that. Dear Heavenly Father, as we conclude, thank you for your provisions to supply us with our needs that help us to continue the work that you have called us to do. Let us hold in our hearts those who are hurting and those who are struggling with addiction and homelessness. May they feel God's love through our actions and find strength and hope in their journey towards healing and stability. We pray for the continued guidance of the Holy Spirit over Dove Ministries and for the collaboration of the Pathway to Stability Initiative and Stepping Stone Stabilization Center. May we remain steadfast in our commitment to you, Lord, and to serving our community with love, compassion, and grace. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Donna, thank you very much. And last but not least, we've got Donald Hamilton, the U-Turn head overseer of U-Turn for Christ.
Hi, my name's Donald. I'm a head U-Turn overseer. And so, kind of give you an idea, I was an addict for 34 years and did everything from drugs to alcohol to being homeless, mixed up with the wrong groups of people. Ended up, my service dog coming up here. I ended up having a lot of jail time, a lot of prison time, and coming to U-Turn for Christ. I had to make a change in my life, and I'm going on 4 years of being at U-Turn for Christ. 4 years after 34 years of use with no drugs, no alcohol, no tobacco. Totally changing my life and strictly over to Jesus, and that's the only way I could change my life. And so, and to give you a background of what U-Turn for Christ is, and I think I speak for most of the leaders at U-Turn for Christ, or all of them, we're here to help the men and women in our community. We're focused on the men here. We are a men's ranch. We do have women ranches throughout the United States. We are worldwide. U-Turn for Christ is basically a Jesus boot camp. You know, we're bringing men and women into the community, or into our ranches, and we involve them to a point where they're in the Bible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We give back to the community. We do a lot of donation work, so we'll go out and help the community. It could be anything from helping a lady move to, it could be a hoarder's house that needs to be cleaned up. It could be yard work, roofing, painting, just anything that can keep the men active, that you know, allows them to still interact with the community, but to get their lives a purpose. And so, and it's really awesome. You know, I get to, you know, being at the ranch, I've been there for 4 years now, I get to see real miracles. You know, I've seen so many families that men are getting back with their wives, or their families are actually talking to them again. And it's a blessing to see these things and to be able to keep these men busy. You know, not just with working in the community, but we go to church. Calvary Chapel is our home base here. We love it. I mean, I just love being able to see what they do and how far they come. And so we got a first phase, which is 2 months. It's a 60-day blackout stage. They don't get their phones. There are a lot of visitation and phone calls on Sunday. Other than that, they are focusing on the Bible and, you know, working on themselves with Jesus. Then we have a second phase that once they get to that point, they get introduced back out into society. It's a 6-month commitment. They get to go get a job, but they're still held accountable. They get their phones back. They can have more interactions with their families and so forth. And then but they're still held accountable. And then we have a third phase, which is a year or longer. And that is it's a commitment. You know, I know the leaders that I'm working with right now, we're lifers. We want to be here. We want to help these men. It's just a true blessing. And so, and what's going on here in the community, what we're doing right now is just a blessing on my part, because I get to see a transformation of the homeless. And I want to see what's going on, and I want to be involved in that. And I know that's for all of us U-Turn people. You know, we really love the men, and we want to see a change, and we know where it needs to start, and that's right here. Thank you.
Donald, thank you very much. So this is where we are today. So we talked about where we've come from and kind of what got us here, and this is a little bit where we are today. We have about 30 or more additional nonprofits that are working to change lives every single day, and we couldn't have everybody up here. But at the back, before you leave, there's a table, and it's got several brochures and cards and information about other nonprofits that are working on addiction, mental illness, families, homelessness, housing, etc. So if you want to get involved and you want to help support the great work that's being done, don't leave that table without some materials on your way out. So now we're going to talk about where we would like to go, and we're going to need all of you to stay awake for this. So if you need refreshments or lemonade or water, please do that now. And I'm going to pass it over to Pastor Kevin Darr, again from Calvary Chapel, to talk about Pathways to Stability.
So once again, Pathways to Stability is really the initiative that we've kind of come up with after all the collaboration that we've gone through and just, thinking it through, seeing what research, or researching what has worked in other communities. And so as part of this, the one thing that we realize is from the most current point in time study, there is approximately 700 unhoused individuals in our community, which is up from the last time this survey was done in 2023, where there was between 500 to 600. So although all the effort that all of the organizations that we have tried to solve this issue, we can't do it working individually. It's one of the things that, it won't work on this. It's okay. What we do need to do, though, is if we collaborate, this is solvable. It's solvable, as I said earlier in my introduction, in communities all throughout the United States, places like Bakersfield, California, Kern County, Houston, Texas. And if it can be done there, it can be done here. And so the really neat part about it is, the numbers seem daunting, because if our homeless rate continues to increase, the next time we take one of these point-of-time studies, at the current rate, it would be close to 1,000 people, that are unhoused in our community. And we just can't have that, especially when there is a solution to it. And so what we've kind of developed as we've gone through this solution is collaborate with all of the different nonprofits. Because the one thing that we know, for instance, as U-Turn for Christ, is we have a very specific role regarding what we do with the homeless. But it's not our forte for the case management and for some of these other things. As Donald so aptly put it, we're a Jesus boot camp. That's what we do. And there are those who want the religious instruction and want all of that, and that's great. We will give it to them, and we'll walk beside them for as long as they need, and we'll be a safety net for them as they go through this transformation. But there are so many other things as far as mental illness and different areas that need to be addressed. The whole goal of this initiative is to remove the roadblocks so that someone can go from being unhoused to being self-sufficient. That's the ultimate goal. In fact, in this initiative, there are even pathways where someone can go from being unhoused to home ownership. And we're excited about it because the ultimate goal for all of us is self-sufficiency. And so our program, as we do this, or this initiative, as we go along with it, there's going to be requirements as a part of it. They're going to need the things that they've been assessed that are seen to be as barriers, they're going to need to follow through with those. And the great thing about the stabilization center that Jeremy will be talking about later on will be that if any of you or all of you who have walked alongside with someone who is restructuring their life after being unhoused, it's one thing after another that needs to be done. First, you need to get a birth certificate so that you can get, an ID, so that you can get whatever, it's on and on. And the thing that happens almost, if someone's not walking alongside them, or is there not someone there to tell them about their medical appointments or whatever, if we can't walk alongside them, they fall through the cracks. It is very difficult, to help someone rebuild their lives. But the whole point of the stabilization center will be just that. We'll have all of the community groups hopefully housed in one location so that it can all be done there, or it can all be sent out. So that person, as they're going through their initial assessment, and as these needs are identified in a person's life, they can be dealt with there, or at least the person who could possibly help them can walk alongside them as they go. So this is something where we are trying to address all of their roadblocks so that they can be on the pathway to stability, so that they can come to the point of being self-sufficient. Because I think if we do anything less than that, it's not really fair to them, and it's not fair to the community in general, the tax-paying members of our society, of our community. And so that's the whole goal, is to promote that self-sufficiency and remove roadblocks as we go along. And like I said, we have so many partners, and we have so many people that are willing to come alongside. We have the shelters designed. We have all, it's pretty intensive. And like I said, when Jeremy comes up here in a little bit, he'll be able to give you some more of that information. And so as a part of this, and what has made it effective in other communities, because we've had the opportunity to speak with other communities that similar programs have been successful with, part of it is the collaboration part, being able to share data, be able to share the client information to get them the help they need. And also it's so that we can have a unified local outreach, so that we're all kind of working together in the same direction, instead of everyone doing their little piece, but it's not cohesive. So that's part of the goal too. And as a part of this, and Jeremy will talk more about this later, is we are, we want to make sure that we address their needs before anything. So in other words, this isn't just a housing first initiative, meaning let's just get people housed at all costs. What we really want to do is assess their needs, because let's face it, if someone has mental illness or addiction or other barriers that have them unhoused right now, they're not going to stay in the housing until we start addressing some of these issues, and we start helping them with some of the issues to get them to a place where they're able to go into our various stages of housing. And so that's big for us too, is to make sure that we are helping them, that we are giving them the things they need and removing the barriers that are necessary for them to become a productive member of our society. And also, one of the things that we will do is we'll start out what we call a low barrier entry. So in other words, someone comes in, we'll take them as they are, but once again, kind of like what was said before, was we won't tolerate drug use or alcohol use. It will be a monitored facility, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot more to it that we will have. And it's just a way for us, though, to also be able to navigate their needs throughout the community. Because as you heard from just a few here, we have so many great organizations that can do so much. And so we're just trying to point everybody in the same direction so that we can work together. And it's also, all the way to, as I said, leading from the goal is to take someone who is unhoused, move them in the temporary housing, address their needs, move them to would be more a subsidized housing, to eventually unsubsidized housing, to ultimately self-sufficiency. So that's kind of the continuum that we're looking at as far as our program goes. And so, as a part of this, our goal is to do this with, not on the backs of the taxpayers. This is a community problem, and we really believe it should be a community solution. It should be something that the taxpayers shouldn't necessarily have to fund. This should be something that can be done through various other means, and that's our goal as far as that goes. So, and as I said, we truly want this to be one solution under one roof with everyone working together. We have, as Julie said, we have over 30 partners that have signed on, so to speak, to be a part of this, or who have shown interest to be a part of this. And we know that as this begins, we're hoping to get it up and operational as soon as possible, and immediately begin having an impact on the community to see a noticeable difference. We would love to be able to ultimately shut down the resting areas. I mean, to get the people out of those areas on 6th and 7th Street, and to be able to get them into what they need as far as removing the barriers, et cetera, for self-sufficiently. So for us, what we really want to do is take this plan. We want to move it forward so that we can solve the homelessness. Our next piece of, or what we're diligently working on now is securing a piece of property to be able to open up the stabilization center and be able to start, getting the infrastructure and stuff in place to make this a reality very soon. So, like I said, there's been a lot of people who've been working very diligently to make that happen, and we're really excited as far as where it's going. And so just quickly, what do we see as some of the benefits? First of all, it will clean up our city. Secondly, it'll provide a safe and secure alternative to those resting places. As I said, our location will be monitored. There will be the police cameras there. There will be, other areas. It won't be open access to it. It will be monitored. We're hoping that through this process we can lower the burden on emergency services, because anybody who observes have seen how much the police and the fire department, et cetera, have to go out to the different camps or deal with these issues. And so we know, and statistics would show, that if we can get someone's mental illness or addiction or whatever it is dealt with, the rate of them returning back into the court system or needing emergency services lowers quite a bit. So, we're hoping that instead of costing the city money, we can actually save them money in emergency services. That's kind of the goal. And also, ultimately, the reason why I know a lot of us are up here are about the people. And, we believe that this program, this initiative, can improve the outcomes for those people who are in crisis. Because ultimately, right now as a community, we're kind of in that reactive stage where we're dealing with all of those that are either unhoused now or dealing with the injunctions or whatever. So we have to react to all of that. But we would like to get to the point where we're proactive in the sense of, if someone comes to our knowledge that is on the verge of becoming homeless, we can get to them before they actually reach being homeless, so that we can deal with it then, because it's a lot less traumatic and a lot less expensive if we can deal with it before they actually reach that point. And quite honestly, it'll allow our city to be known and to move on to other things that the city was once known for. That the focus isn't about homelessness, but, about business, about different things that our community should be focusing on. So, that's really what Pathways to Stability is. It's an initiative that came out of just a desire, one, to see, as we said, people who are in crisis outcome to improve, but secondly, also so that the community could have their city back, and that we aren't known for just the homelessnesses and injunctions, but we're once again known as an all-American city that's thriving. So.
Thank you so much, Pastor. I appreciate it. Jeremy, you're up. So while Jeremy's coming up, I'm super excited about this, and there's going to be a lot of questions like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? The exciting thing is what they're doing is they're researching other areas, other cities, other states, and what's working there, and taking the pieces and parts of each of those, even here in Bend and in Medford, what's working, and they're taking that and we're building it to be a Grants Pass initiative. Now, Jeremy is going to talk specifically about the Stepping Stone Stabilization Center, and then we'll be able to give you guys a break.
Thank you, Julie. So I'd like to welcome everybody. Thank you for showing up. It shows that you have a commitment for your community. I want to thank our panel for coming up. One of the things, absolutely. Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to do was be able for the community to hear that there is work being done, and these are just some of the stories. Matter of fact, Cassie, you told Julie and I and Susan from MIG Road, Susan, she just walked in. Hi, Susan. She told us about the story of the young man who was able to start his education again, and that's when I said, man, I really want the community to be able to hear some of these stories. Lives are being changed. We're all working together to change lives. And we truly believe that we can change even more lives through this through the Stepping Stone Center to the Pathways to Stability Initiative. I want to thank the City Council, the mayor. They've been very, very instrumental in trying to get something together. A lot of people think that they're just sitting on their laurels. They're not. They're actively working on a solution, very much so. I talked to a lot of the City Council members. I talk to the mayor quite often, and they're very, very interested in being able to solve the homeless issue and get back to other municipalities that they want to do. A lot of questions that get brought up about the stabilization center. Let me kind of run you through it. It's not an encampment. It's going to be a 24/7 managed site. There's going to be case management. There's going to be security. Once a property is located, there's going to be a 5,000-foot exclusion zone around it, which means there's not going to be any criminal activity, I hate to say this, any defecating or urinating around a 5,000-foot area. You're going to probably go to jail for your behavior. What's kind of neat about this is it's a Housing Plus initiative, which means that you'll be able to come in, but what the plus issue is, if you have addiction, if you have mental health issues, if you have mental issues, we're going to be able to meet you right where you're at, right there. If you're a veteran, we're going to get you linked up with veteran services. We're going to get you into workforce development, job placement. One of my visions for this whole thing is once we get people stabilized, once we get them transformed, move them into job placement and workforce development, we're going to provide the community with another workforce, which is going to bring tax money in, which is going to bring businesses in. And to be able to, and I see it all the time, we have people that come through our program that have actually gone on to be business owners now. And one of the reasons I decided that I needed to get involved with this is because through U-Turn for Christ changed my life dramatically. And I've seen U-Turn for Christ change lives. I've seen homeless men come into the program and now have lives, businesses. They're actually providing back to the community. And one of the things I realized is that we have the manpower and we have the ability to be able to help the community. And I know this is it's a pretty divisive issue in the community, so that's why we wanted to have this town hall meeting, is for all of you to be able to come, address your concerns, and actually hear what we're doing. We got real solutions. We totally believe that the homeless situation is solvable, because if they're solving it in other communities, we can solve it here in Grants Pass on a smaller scale. We've got everything from low barrier to entry, all the way up to transitional housing, workforce development, job placement, eventually low income, and into permanent housing, the whole package. And I know nothing's foolproof. We're going to work through some things. I know there's going to be some bumps in the road. But the thing is if we don't get ahead of this now, it's going to get worse. Like Pastor Kevin was just saying, the point in time last year was 500 to 600. The point in time now is 700. The next projections are 1,000. That's a lot, and it's going to keep growing exponentially. The time is now. The communities, we have a great city council, we have a great mayor, we have great community partners, all pulling together, all working together to put something in play. The stabilization center is the key to it all, where we can clean up our streets, we can bring people in, that we don't have to see the encampments on 6th Street and 7th Street. You don't have to worry about if people are loitering or leaving trash in your neighborhood anymore. It's going to take the whole community to do this, and that's why we invited the community. I get calls all the time from community members wanting to know how they can help out. Well, we're going to open it up for people to come and to be able to volunteer and to help. Any way that we can help the community solve this problem, we're going to work on that. And it's a community problem, and all of us in this community need to fix it. And I believe we can. There's no doubt in the world that we can. And we're actually at the spot now where we've gone from talk to actually being able to implement this and put this into action. And that's why we kind of are having this meeting right now, is we want to let the community know there's a plan. And we're going to put it in action. We're not going to talk this to death anymore. One of the things I keep hearing over and over again is the homeless industrial complex. That's not what this is going to be. Our goal, and Pastor Kevin and I, and we talk about this all the time, we work for U-Turn for Christ, so we want to work ourselves out of a job. We want to work ourselves back into the recovery ministry. But we do see a need in our community, and so we're going to throw our hat in the ring. And I'm so thankful for, like Julie was saying, there's 30 plus partners that all want to help, from UCAN, Hearts with the Mission, Dr. Scott, Mint. Everybody is pulling for this community to pull back together. So I want the community to know that there is a plan, and we are going to implement it, and we're going to make Grants Pass great again. Amen? Amen. Thank you.
Try stopping him on the hallway when he's heading somewhere. There's a question back there. We're going to open up questions in a minute. Is it urgent? Oh, great. Okay. No, I'm glad you asked, Mark. So a point in time count, I shouldn't do it myself. You want to? Yep. We'll take a minute because I think it's really important. It's an annual account. It's a national account. UCAN is the one that facilitates that every year. She'll give you we have about a minute probably. If you want to just give them a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah. What she said. No, but seriously, it is a time of the year. It's a dedicated day that we look at the 10 days of where somebody slept on a specific date so that we can get an accurate count of the individuals in our community. And what we focus on is obviously UCAN focuses on facilitating for Josephine and Douglas counties, so we actually run 2 point in times at the same time. And we get our agencies together, sort of like what we're doing now. We sit at a table, we work through what the resources are that are needed, where people are at the time, where are the hidden camps, where are the camps at, who's at Mint, where are the individuals that we need to count, including talking to the school systems because they do keep track of those things. And we're making sure that we're also counting the children, working with Maslow, and making sure that we're getting the right counts as well, and then giving everybody the resources they need and letting them know what resources we have as well, just because we do have a plethora. So.
Thank you so much, Holly. I could not have said it as well. They live and breathe that thing. It takes almost a year to put together every year, and then it takes about 8 months to get the results, right? It's a little crazy. And before we go to comments, I'm going to add just a couple things to what Jeremy talked about. It's really important that you understand what low barrier entry means, because low barrier entry means that anybody can come in, like he said, unless you're a danger to themselves or others, and then they'll be referred out. But it's a low barrier entry so everybody can get in. They have a stabilization period, 72 hours or more, whatever is decided amongst the groups. Stabilization period, they'll have showers, laundry, access to food, and they'll be more congregate in the beginning. They'll get a full assessment with case management, peer support, whatever that evaluation is, so that each one of them can have a customized plan for working themselves out of the situation. Now, many of the nonprofits are already doing that. They're all doing it within their organizations, and it's difficult because people are so spread out. Sometimes you're having to do, one organization is having to fix 10 barriers for a family when others can actually help with that to reduce duplication and be more effective and efficient with the work. So the idea is that by us working together, fewer people will fall between the cracks, and we'll have greater long-term solutions because of that collaboration. So we couldn't do any of this. No, we could all dream about it, but it would never happen unless we had the community and the community partners at the table for our community. Last thing, there's a lot of barriers to people going into treatment, barriers to people getting into housing. They're looking at every barrier and trying to find a way where the stabilization center can address that, whether it's a pet, somebody won't go into treatment because they have a dog and they're worried about the dog. There's going to be access for pets and for I don't know the word, kenneling if somebody's in residential treatment, so we'll have access to that. Also, especially for service animals, imagine going through treatment or going through a mental health counseling and not having your emotional support animal there. So they're working about that. It's 24/7 with security. It can be faith-based or secular. So if somebody wants to go the faith-based route, they can. If they want to go secular, they can. And there's transitional housing right on site. So somebody can get a good night's sleep. They can have a shower. They can prepare for an interview. They can meet with their case managers right then. How cool would that be, right? And it's going to happen. It's going to happen because of conversations like this today. Now, we're going to give you guys a break, but I know there's some people in the audience that are working really hard on this initiative that just didn't get the opportunity to come up, or they would like to just show their support but couldn't be here. I have one letter. So be thinking, if you want to say, you know what, I represent this organization and we support this initiative and this is why, I would love that. And there's a mic right there, or you can steal mine. I'm okay with that. This one I got from somebody who wanted to be here, and she got really sick. She did something silly and tried to take a vacation and got sick, which is my deal. And this came from Holly Morton, who is our Republican Party chair, I believe. That's the official title. And this is what she says. Well, and if anybody wants to come up to chat just real quickly, we'll set that up. For years, I have gone on the record in opposition of a low barrier shelter in Grants Pass. The current project, proposed to be on nearly 8 acres on Vine Street, achieves several objectives that I feel are critical to solving this growing problem in our community. This program will separate the factions of homeless people, poor, elderly, parents, children, disabled, and the largest group, 75 to 85%, which are those addicted to drugs and alcohol, rather than lumping them all into one group. Each has specific and differing needs. I haven't read this, so I'm stumbling a little bit. Make the problem of solving addiction the number one goal and finding solutions for those with other problems. House animals with their owners. Provide 24/7 security and supervision by staff familiar with drug-addicted personality and mental disorders. Identify those who have come from other areas and create pathways for them to return. Cut down the number of police visits required. Have staff witnesses of crimes which then can be prosecuted, arrest those who are selling drugs to minimize the negative impact, create accountability from all the NGOs and nonprofits about what they need to do and their success ratio. Sorry, there's a crease in the paper. Hold everyone in the program accountable to the successful staff and being served, manage the cost to the city, keep our parks free for children and families in our community, manage the garbage, human waste, and needles now being left throughout town, cut down on the visual blight in the center of our community. The property faces that particular property faces the freeway and can easily be cut off from view. Locate vehicles with people living in them all in one area and reduce the fear experienced by people going out at night. I believe U-Turn for Christ and Path are well suited for coordinating this program. Holly, thank you very much. She reminds me, we learned from others that are implementing similar programs that it's really smart to focus in specific areas. So they have prioritized meeting the needs and working with our seniors, our veterans, single parents with children, and those with disabilities. So that's going to be our primary focus early on. The goal is to scoop in anybody and everybody who's ready to be transformed to go, but that's what we're going to focus on in the beginning. I see some faces. Yes, ma'am. Yes, and when we open up for questions, that's perfect timing. I'm glad you're here. Thank you. I have some community partners. Anybody want to say anything? I'm pointing at you. Okay, they don't want to be put on the spot. There's several community partners here that are already on board. We're already working and collaborating together. We have a steering committee, and what we want to do is make sure that this entity and the Stabilization Center meets the needs of each of our community partners and those that we're serving. So we don't want to do that in a vacuum. We're picking brains on what's working, and we will pivot on a dime if we find that what we're doing is not working. Okay, I think we're okay now. What I would like for you to do is make sure that you have your 3x5 cards filled out, and somebody's going to come around and pick them up. Jeremy is walking up and down the aisle with more cards. Make sure to fill out your questions, because we're going to collect those while you have refreshments. I think we have about 7 to 10 minutes for refreshments. Remember, the restrooms are over here, and then we'll go through each of your questions. Thank you all. Definitely stretch. Test. I was just told we actually have 10 minutes for break time, so take your time. he does have them off upstairs? Okay. Thank you. So one more minute and we're going to get restarted. Test, test. Okay, we're going to get restarted in 1 minute. These are for city. Can you get those to the back row? Yes, sir. See where Seth is? Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, that's okay. Not a problem. That's okay. I was pointing, and he thought I was pointing it at you, but I was pointing at Brian.
Taking the set?
Huh?
The city council guy?
Yeah. Okay. Because there's others here, and see how if they want to handle those questions.
Do I need to grab a chair?
Yes. Yeah, I don't mind standing if you want to.
No, ma'am, I'll grab a chair.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming right back. I appreciate it. Okay, so we went through the questions and we only eliminated those that were duplicates, and we have quite a few. Not all of them can we answer, and we did not prioritize them because I think they're all really important. But I do have one here from Kira, who is the clinical operations manager at Boulder Care, and they want to partner on this initiative. So Kira, thank you so much. No going back, no going back. And we're going to pass these out to those who can best answer them, and you're going to get sick and tired of hearing my voice after a while. Okay, why are the numbers of homeless increasing every year in our town? I have a philosophy about that, but I don't have proof. Because of Measure 110 and because of our injunction, we made national news. And yes, we've always had local issues, but when we made national news, we became a magnet, I believe. And it is a beautiful community with beautiful parks and rivers and a friendly environment. So I think that didn't help. With the organization that was doing security in the parks, they would talk to a lot of the people that were coming in or that they were encountering, and I don't have numbers, but even though we have quite a few of our local people who are currently unhoused, there's also quite a few people that have come in from out of the area, and we do no longer want to be a magnet for that. We want to be the place for healing, and that's why we're focusing specifically on the demographics that we are, so that we can hit our local people first, because there's resources for people from out of the area. There's an organization up here at the table, and they can raise their hand if they want. They actually just received funding for reunification. So if somebody got here and we get calls, PATH gets calls regarding people in need, maybe their car broke down or something happened and they got stranded here, got stranded locally, and they can't get out. And so in a case like that, if they can show that there's somebody at the other end that can take them, whether it's family, whether it's services or provider or their hometown, they can make that happen with a one-way bus ticket. So by working together, we can say, oh, I don't have that resource, but they do, and they do. Is the shelter going to be mandatory? It is not. It is by choice, but it is mandatory that you be working on your customized program to excel and to succeed, because we don't want somebody who's just getting really comfortable and they stay in the lifestyle that they're in right now. What we want is transformation. So that is a mandatory. And that's something that Rogue Retreat is doing very successfully in Medford. So we're going to take all the good stuff that they're doing and also implement that here. What will cause a person with drug or mental issues to come to the barrier or come to the facility to start the process? There has to be incentive. Some people are ready, and all of our community partners are already working with unhoused people or people with these barriers of addiction, mental illness, whatever the case may be, they know who's ready. They know who just needs a roof over their head. They know that they just need that stabilization period. They're just waiting to get into a residential treatment bed. They're going to be the ones that are going to be referring their people, and they're going to be able to work with their people right there. So we're really targeting those who are already working, wanting to make change in their future. So we're not going to duplicate anything. What we want to do is provide additional resources to each of our community partners. How are you going to get all the homeless out of camps? So again, there needs to be some incentive, and it's not for everybody. Every community has what I'll call ne'er-do-wells. There's communities where people just don't want to be part of the community. But there's consequences now. Measure 110 was revised. It didn't go away, but it was revised, and it recriminalized drugs. So now there's consequences. People can get cited. People can go to jail. If they don't want to go to jail, they can enter into a deflection program. And the Sobering Center are the best to talk about this, but in a nutshell, they can go to a deflection program where they actually get treatment. And when they come out of that treatment and they succeed, then that particular arrest was removed. So now there's incentive and consequences, and it's human. I say this all the time. If the IRS told me that I had to pay 30% of my income to them, but there's no consequences if I don't, I'm a law-abiding citizen. They're not seeing 30% of my taxes, of my money. So it's just human. Why is the Gospel Rescue Mission not represented here? I will speak on their behalf because I'm a board member. They're amazing. They're doing amazing work. They are high barrier on purpose. They had low barrier before. It wasn't successful because it was not regulated in the way that this will be regulated. They're high barrier. So if somebody decides they want to go into treatment or get the help that they need, they may not be ready for the Gospel Rescue Mission, but once they've been stabilized at that the stabilization center, then they'll be more successful being able to go into a higher barrier program like the Gospel Rescue Mission or like U-Turn for Christ. Theirs is a boot camp. Trust me, I would fail in the boot camp. Okay, just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Built for Zero. You're absolutely right. Built for Zero is one of those, and if you want to write it down, it's communitysolutions.org. Built for Zero is one of the models that we're emulating. It's a housing first model. It's making huge impacts on basically eradicating homelessness in communities that are much larger, much more difficult situations than us. They are a housing first model, which we are housing plus. So and they don't talk a lot about treatment, and we want to be housing plus treatment, housing plus plan, housing plus. So that's why we're not talking about it, but it's still part of it. We still have advisors from Built for Zero assisting us as we move forward as groups. We did these? What'd you just say? Oh, yeah, and he just talked to him today. Okay, so he said, I don't see any homeless people here. This is really us coming together. There's a lot of people who have been unhoused, a lot of people with the experience. Many of the people on this table have already been unhoused. I, in particular, was an unhoused teenager. And so we're taking that experience and we're gathering that information as we go along to make sure that we're actually meeting the needs of those that we need. And we already answered that one. Okay, so we have other cards with other experts to answer. Who would like to begin? Okay, Jeremy?
I'll go. Okay, so one of them was who's funding this? One of the things that we don't want to do is we want to see your electric bills and your water bills go up. So we are looking at a lot of private funding options. That being said, there is some federal funding that's available. We're looking at the possibility of tapping into that, but one thing we don't want to see is any more burden on the taxpayers. U-Turn for Christ has operated for 30 years with no state funding or no federal funding, and we believe we can continue to do the same. There's a lot of endowments, there's a lot of trusts, there's a lot of private funds out there that are specifically set aside for things like this, and so we are actually looking at those options. Like I said, and along with, there is some, like I said, federal funds for this that have already been allocated, so we might be tapping into those. But as far as your water bill, your electric bill, that's not on my watch. Let's see. How will ensuring residents or Oregon residents be handled? We actually sat down and talked with Dr. Marbut, who was at one time Trump's homeless czar, and he gave us a lot of good information on specific questions to ask in regards to that. That's one of the things that we do want to do this. We want to make this tailored to helping those that are actually from Grants Pass, homegrown people, the people that are from this community, from this county that are homeless. There are ways that but with that being said, we just don't want to, you hear it all the time, why don't you just bust them out of here? You can't just do that. That's not right. It's not compassionate. So there are excuse me, there are ways that we can get them in contact with where their support area is, where their support group's from. And as long as someone on the other end can receive them, we can work on reunification and get them to the area that they're from. We believe by doing that, it's going to cut down on the cost of being able to do this. And once we do that, a lot of people come to this area because they know, hey, you come to Grants Pass, you can get away with being homelessness. Well, I think once we get going with this, a lot of people will understand that no, you can't. That we got a solution in place. The community's working towards solving this problem. And that it's just not a place that you can come and we can increase the numbers here. We're looking to decrease the numbers and solve this problem. Let's see what the next one is. One of those ones, if they don't want help and want to continue to be bums, will they be asked to leave? My thought is this. Myself, I didn't get it right the first time. I didn't get it right the second time. I didn't get it right the third time. I didn't get it right the fourth time. Maybe even more than that. But I finally did get it right. We've got a pastor in our ministry right now who runs the men's ministry here. Owns his own business, pays taxes in this community, and went through the program 14 times. I think that we have to leave areas for people to fail. And one of that word fail for the longest time, it was not in my vocabulary, but I changed the word fail into an acronym. It means the first attempt in learning. And nobody's going to get it right the first time. Nobody ever gets anything right the first time. All of us have made mistakes, and we've all had to learn from our mistakes. And I think that we need to leave it open for opportunities for people to recycle and go back through. We can't just say one and done. It doesn't work. Nobody's ever did life perfectly. No one's ever walked life perfectly. Well, one did. We just celebrated his resurrection yesterday. But yeah. But I think that we need to meet individuals where they're at. We need to give them the opportunity to succeed. What's that psychological phenomenon called? Where people will rise to the what is it called? The Pygmalion, yeah. That people will rise to the expectations to the level that you put on. And we see it in the ministry here. And one of the things I'm hoping to see is what's the other question? Well, what if they don't want to go? Well, I believe that once people see other people succeeding, they're going to want to be a part of that also. And it's the ripple effect. It's going to transfer, and they're going to want to be a part of that too. Here's the thing: is we can talk all these questions to death. We really can. And the thing is we need to do something, and we got a plan, and we need to just get busy doing it, and we'll learn on the fly with a lot of this. A lot of the stuff we don't have to learn on the fly because I've been doing this. I've been in the ministry since 2001, and in 27 years experience, being able to throw my hat at this. A lot of this is addiction, but with those addictions, a lot of those addictions come from trauma, and so we can be able to meet a person where they're at, deal with the addiction, and then get to the root issue. Because one of the things I always ask the guys when they come into the program is, how many of you guys want to get sober? They all raise their hand, and I ask why. I says, weren't you sober when you decided you were going to first get high? And then I ask them again, how many of you guys have relapsed? Everybody raised their hands. So that means that when you were sober, again, you made the worst choice of your life to get high. So it's not the drugs and the alcohol that are the problem, because if they're making the worst choice of their life when they're quote unquote sober, it's something that's going on in here. And a lot of that times that's from trauma. And so if we can get people clean and deal with the trauma, then we can get them transformed. Like Pastor Kevin says, we don't want to do rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is just getting you to the point of where you're at before. We want to do transformation, where your lives are transformed. And I totally believe in what we're doing. I totally believe that this community is a beautiful community. The people in this community are beautiful. The way that a lot of the people step up, the way that a lot of the nonprofits step up in this community, it's a beautiful thing. And I think that as a community, as a whole, as a collective, we all collaborate, that all these what's the word I'm looking for? Apprehensions, all these different things that are keeping us divided, I think will unite us. I think we all pull together in a community and work together on this. It's solvable. We got to quit being so divided on the issue. Here's the thing: is it's here. There's nothing. The problem's here now. So what do you do with it? You know, we can either be against it, we can speak on this side, or we can all come together and we can fix it. And the only way this is going to get solved is we all have to come together and fix this. Okay, I'll keep going.
Oh, you have more.
Oh, I do, but go ahead. We'll come back.
Well, I guess I ended up with 2 mics, so I'll answer in stereo. Yeah, exactly. Let's see, some of the questions that we have is, what will be the plan for those with physical handicaps? Well, one of the reasons why we're really pushing for the Vine Street property is because that property is designed for, well, it's not designed, but it is accessible. It will meet the ADA requirements and is also a part of the injunction. So that's the first part, and a lot of the housing that's been designed will also be ADA accessible. So it will not be an issue, and it's definitely one of the pieces that we've definitely kept in mind as we've looked for the different locations. And it is one of the 4 groups, as Julie stated earlier, that we're going to be targeting in the beginning. It was those with disabilities, it was those women with children, it was seniors, and it was veterans. We wanted to start with a smaller segment of the population because one of the questions that we asked these other organizations, such as Built for Zero and different communities, was, you know, what were some of the factors that led to your success? And one of them, almost universally, was just that you start out small. You don't just start out full bore, but you start out with a smaller segment and, you know, see what works, what doesn't work, and then refine it as you go. So as far as those with physical handicaps, that will be available immediately as soon as we open it day 1. What is the plan for families of people living in cars? How long can vehicles remain on public streets? That's how long they can remain on public streets. That's more of a law issue. I see. There you go, 72 hours. So our goal with that is the property that we're looking at is close to 8 acres. So what we envision is having a section that is fenced off for people to be able to park their cars, and that they could enter into the temporary housing to get the cars off of the street. That would be our goal. And part of the goal, too, as a part of the enforcement, is they would not be allowed to live in their cars. They could park their cars there, but they wouldn't have access to their cars until, because who knows what would come in the cars. So in other words, we'd have a fenced-off area. We would have the cars would be locked, and they would be off of the street. So, it does a couple of things. A better opportunity for housing, and it gets the vehicles off the street. So that was kind of how we initially plan on dealing with that. But, as several of the panelists have said, this is going to be something that, as it goes, I'm sure we'll modify. Let's see, what will clients have to do with their food stamps? Will they have access to kitchens and fridges? Well, when we went over to Rogue Retreat, they had a nice kind of community kitchen, and that the clients, or that the people were able to cook with, and that kind of stuff, place to store their food. Also, there's community partners that we've been working with that would bring in meals, that kind of stuff. So we're still working all of the minor details of that stuff out as we go. Let's see. Okay.
And then we'll see how much time we have left.
Okay. And then there's one that says, why did U-Turn become Pathways to Stability, a 501c, to get states' money and taxpayers' money? U-Turn for Christ is not Pathways to Stability. U-Turn for Christ is a separate organization. We're just a piece of the puzzle. We just happen to be the ones that had the passion, especially with Jeremy, to spearhead this whole thing. But U-Turn for Christ has been U-Turn for Christ for 30 years, and it'll never change. Our mission will never change. Our vision will never change. We're just a part of this. We want to be a part of the solution. So that's all that is. And there's a couple other questions about funding, which I think Jeremy answered. Go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of want to speak a little bit more too. Pat, why did U-Turn become Pathway? U-Turn didn't become Pathways to Stability. One of the things that we realized is that we are a faith-based organization, and we didn't want that to turn anybody away from coming to get help. And so we started Pathways to Stability. That way everybody can come. That way they can get, if they want faith-based, they can get faith-based, but it's not going to be mandated. If they want secular, they can have secular. If they want Oxford House, they can go to Oxford House. If they decide that we want to be able to have them be able to go to options and adapt and on track and all the other case management services that are available. So that's why Pathways to Stability started. We didn't want the connotation of being a faith-based organization to hold anybody back from being able to come and receive services.
Jeremy, thank you. We have a lot more questions, and we have some questions that were directed specifically to the city. So if Mayor Scherf would please come up, we'll get you a microphone, and he'll answer the cards that he has. We're hoping to get through all the questions, but we want to also give you a proper send-off with now what, not just so what, but now what. So go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So I just want to start here. I am the mayor of the city of Grants Pass here. My name is Clint Scherf. If you guys don't know who I am, thank you. I want to thank the panel for showing up. I first met Jeremy here right after I got sworn in January. I had a cup of coffee with him and a couple people from U-Turn for Christ, and he looked at me across from the table, took a sip of his coffee, and he said, I was listening to you during your campaign. And I guess during my campaign, which I totally believe, I didn't think it was the city's responsibility to own and operate one of these facilities, but I thought it was an opportunity for the community to step up and all the organizations within our community to be participating in the helping of the homeless. So Jeremy looked at me and he said, I heard you, and I've got this great idea. And at that time, it was called Build for Zero, and he brought it to me and showed me some success on it. It is to this date evolved into something different to actually accommodate what we need in this community. So to answer one of the questions that was given to us is, what is the city's participation, responsibility, whatever you want to call it, in this project? I believe from listening to these people up here that this is something that could be a solution. That's a word that hasn't been used in the topic of homelessness forever. And I believe, after listening to these guys and what they're doing and how far that they've come, that this could be a solution. Thank you. So, as far as the city's participation, I believe the city can help facilitate a place for these people. Jeremy came to me and said, I need something at least 5 acres or bigger, because we've got to house all the nonprofits, and we've got to have a facility big enough to accommodate as many people, as many homeless people as we can. And we would go back to the numbers of the point in time count. So the city's involvement in this would be that we would try to facilitate a place for them, and then we would lease it back to Pathways to run and operate it so they could organize all the other nonprofits in there. So it is still in an infantile stage. We are in discussion. I am not all of the body that governs. There's 8 counselors that are on the board. I actually don't have a say in any of this because I don't have a vote, but I am encouraging the council to oversee and look for a facility and try to get something in place for these guys and work with them. So that's basically my answer to that. And I'll hand it back over to you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say everything is locked in stone, but it is fluid like the Rogue River. But we're all moving in the right direction. We're all moving in the same direction. So we actually have some more questions here, and I want to make sure that you guys get out of here on time. A couple things we're going to do. We're going to take one more question. I'm not going to give it to Jeremy. And then we're just going to say, okay, now what? Where are we going to go? What do we do? How can we help? So we'll do that on the way out. And then they've stated that if you still have additional questions specifically for U-Turn, they'll be here. This is their facility. So feel free to chat with them for a little bit. And don't forget, at the back table, we have all kinds of really great information about our community partners. So this next question we'll give to Jeremy, and then we'll talk about now what?
So the next question is, what about safety of our neighborhoods? Will police increase patrols? And the answer to that question is yes. There'll be a 5,000-foot exclusion zone put around the property. The police will increase patrols. There will be, I think it's a hot button that if an emergency, if we need immediate police response, the police will be immediately responded to. There will also, I think, be private security doing patrols also around it. That's one of the things that this is not going to be. It's not going to be an encampment. It's going to be managed. There's going to be oversight, and people are going to be held to it. You can come in, but you can't do drugs. You're going to be a curfew. There's going to be certain milestones. You're going to have to check in every morning. You need to be working with your case managers, working on your pathway out of homelessness.
Thank you. What we have now is unmanageable and unmanaged, and it's just temporary. It's what we had to do as a community to get our community parks back and our public spaces back. It's not perfect, it's temporary, but yes, absolutely right. Somebody asked, why are the police not here? Obviously, there's all kinds of stuff going on with the injunction, and et cetera, et cetera. They're on board and supportive. They need and want, we heard recently that 50% of their resources are going to the homelessness issue and the responses, and it's getting more and more dangerous for everybody, including police officers. So they do have a member on the steering committee. They have a member on the homeless task force. They're part of the conversation to make sure that it's working for all of us, including the safety and security. There was a woman here that wanted to speak for 2 minutes. She's now in the back, so I'm going to go ahead and move to, okay, now what? What can I do? We keep saying we all need this together. We don't need millions of dollars, but if you have it, come on up. We'll stay all night and talk to you. But any money contributions is helpful. But even more, for those who pray, please pray. 2, if you've been wanting to volunteer, you've wanted to make a difference, you've wanted to do something, and you don't know where to begin, there's numerous ways you can do that. One of the ways is you can join PATH, and you will find out from 30 or more community partners what the needs are, what specifically do they need, whether it's filling backpacks before school starts for unhoused kids, or whether it's helping unhoused families who are finally got housing and they only have the clothing on their back. We'll get together and we'll get them furnished, or we'll get them things for their house. There's so many things. If you're a mechanic and somebody is going to work every day, but they're unhoused and now they can't even get to work because of that, you can give some time and expertise to help in that. I know for Pathways for Stability, there's going to be room for everybody. There's workforce development, there's cooking. He's a fabulous cook, but he'll die if he cooks for everybody all the time. If there's landscape that needs to be done, or mentoring, if you sit down with Hearts with a Mission and Maslow Project, the amazing work that they're doing in the lives of young people and their families, and it's sustainable. They're breaking down just cycles of homelessness, cycles of poverty. It's amazing. Mint, they need food, they need supplies. They are the low barrier option to get people from the worst of the worst on the streets or in their car or in an encampment, and get them to a place where they can get navigational services. They need all the help they can get. And we can't do what Mint is doing. And Mint doesn't have what the Paths for Stability, but together we can refer people, so we can get it done. So there's just so much you can do. Please don't leave here without signing somewhere on those sign-in sheets. At the very end, it says, what's your interest or what's your skill set? So please put by there, I'm a mechanic, I'm a counselor. I talked to my doctor yesterday and said, you know, if you want to serve a few hours, they're doing that at Mint, but we need to do that at the Stability Center as well. If you want to put in a few hours to help, that would be huge. If you're a coach or you're a mentor or a parent or a senior, where you can help some of these families with childcare just to give the parent a break for a day, something like that. So there's a lot to do. Please don't leave here uncommitted to making this happen, because guaranteed, if we don't do this now, we already know that it's only going to get worse, and worse is intolerable. Right? So you guys are amazing. We actually have 3 minutes. The woman who wanted to speak is still back there. She is part of Home Share Oregon. So if you want to look that up. The other thing, there was a question up here about what are the Built for Zero communities? What are they doing and how are they eradicating homelessness? Go to communitysolutions.org and you'll see Rockford, Illinois and Houston, Texas and numerous other places. And it's all data driven and it's all in real time. So you can actually see the numbers are tangible. Here we're going to be able to do the same thing with the local nonprofits working with real-time data, real people, real families, real people in need, so that fewer people fall between the cracks and more people are getting the sustainable help that they need and the sustainable solutions. I can't thank you all enough. This man is in charge of this house, so I'm going to have him say a proper goodbye, and I think there's a few refreshments back if your husband or spouse or kids want a cookie.
Okay, so they asked if we wanted to leave it open for 10 minutes for additional Q&A. So I'm fine with that. If you guys have any questions, one question I didn't get to on here was, what about childcare, especially for those places where, parents who have children that are trying. There's plenty of childcare opportunities in the community. In fact, here at the church, we house one that has it, for instance, that's for low-income families. So there's a lot of information, so I guess is there any questions up here that didn't get answered that anybody would like to address? If not, we'll just leave the mic open for anybody who would like to ask a question. Don't rush all up here at one time. They need to hear you online too.
Actually, I just wanted to make a statement more than a question. So ultimately, this is a matter of law. The city has to do something under the injunction. We don't have the option to not do something. We don't want people in our parks. We have to do something. This is the best option to come along. I mean, hands down. We have community members all working together, moving in one direction, and that needs to continue. And so what happens? How does it get eradicated? Well, once we have a place to go and people for them to go and the camps are closed down, then the city police can actually enforce behavioral laws that will make people go to the camp because that's the place to go. And then they can work the program or not. They can be moved out of the community if they don't want to participate. And so this is really the stepping stone to solving the whole issue. And it's a complicated but simple process, and I really hope everybody can see it and get on board. Thank you.
Yes, please, go ahead. Dennis, you're next.
You can come up to this mic right.
This one? Okay. I'm so confused. I'm not very good at this. Hi. Wow, that's loud. I am so excited about all this that's happening and all the work you're doing, and I'm so in awe of you. And I'm really excited to you, Jeremy, because you mentioned trauma, because trauma is where it all begins. And so I work for an organization called HomeShare Oregon, and we found out that there were 1.5 million unused bedrooms in the state of Oregon. So we decided that we needed to do something about that. And we thought, well, even if we only house 20% of them, that's a lot of people off the street. And, this isn't a new solution or anything, because my grandmother, when, during the Depression, her biggest worry was keeping her house. And she took in boarders because that was the only way she could figure she could do it. And she kept her house and she went on to buy other ones. But so our organization, and I want to partner with all of you, how it functions is it's a website, because we know there's home sharing places in other areas, but they were case managed heavily and people were matched up and they could only do like 20, maybe 20 a year. And we wanted to put that on steroids. So we came up with a website, and you go in and it's homeshareoregon.org, and you go in and the home provider puts in their profile, the renter puts in their profile, and they get matched. it works exactly like a dating app. And then you have access to their emails, and you can, either party can contact the other party and say, hey, well, I'm looking for a place. You look like we might be good roommates. And so, but we want to stay out of it. Because we want it to just function as well as it can, for the people to pick who they want to live with. And so you don't have to follow all those, take the first person who has the money or whatever, because this is your home. You get to pick whomever you want to live with. So if you're interviewing 10 people and you decide on 3 of them, then we encourage you to spend as much time as it takes, if it's 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, to actually get to know this person. Because the biggest pushback I get is, I don't want to live with a stranger. And we do not want you to live with a stranger. We want them to be your friend by the time they move in. Plus, there's the whole loneliness factor that people are, just since COVID has just gone crazy. And so it helps with that too. I personally have never lived alone and probably never will. But so we're just offering like an alternative. Obviously, it's not for people who still have barriers, but I'm hoping that we can work with all the organizations so that we can just, provide another solution for people who may not have a lot of money to get into a new apartment or whatever. And we try to keep them, if you're renting a room in your house, we ask that you don't charge more than $750, unless it's like an ADU in your backyard or a apartment over a garage or something. But a room in your house, that's, $750 is pretty max for just that. And I have a home sharer and have had one for years, so I encourage you all to.
Hey, Tony, before you go, you have somebody behind you. What's your website so they can get more information? Do you have a website, HomeShare?
Oh, yeah, it's homeshareoregon.org.
Awesome. I think we're out of time. We got to get Kenneth in there. Thank you so much, Tony.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
We get 2 for 1. I love it.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name's Kenny, and I'm a member of this church. I just want to boost up Pathways. My wife and I recently just took in a young gentleman who is autistic. He's been homeless since the age of 15, and it has been difficult to find him help. I've been 2 months strong now, my wife and I, working to get him to go through all the loopholes where he needs to be. So I think Pathways is going to really boost up having everything in one spot. I don't have to chase around and go to Aspire and then go to the mental outpatient. It'll all be in one spot. This young boy doesn't even deserve to sleep on the street. He's not a druggie. He's just a homeless young boy who needs some help. And he knows it.
Yeah, he came into U-Turn, and he had a lot of mental problems. So I really think that it's awesome what Pathways is doing, because they got people that can handle certain mental issues. And I'm thankful. I'm a member of U-Turn for Christ. I was homeless. I was homeless in Pueblo for about 7-8 months. I was going from camp to camps. I had no direction, and I came into U-Turn, and U-Turn, the Lord changed my life in U-Turn. But not just the Lord, but the direction that U-Turn gave me, the disciplines, how to handle the bitterness and the trauma that happened in my life. I had a lot of trauma, but I didn't have no direction. I didn't have no structure. I was all over the place, and the Lord and the disciplines in U-Turn gave me structure, and I love what Jeremy and Pathways and Pastor Kevin is doing, and the Lord changed my life. Jesus Christ changed my life. If it wasn't for the Lord and the structure of U-Turn, I believe what my pastor says, the answer for the homeless is Jesus. But not only that, the answer for anything is what everybody up here is doing. Everybody come together with humanity. These people are human beings, and they're pushed and driven here and there, and they don't have nowhere to go, no options. and all these people up here, Jack Jeremy says it's about compassion. You know, compassionate, loving people and giving them direction. And that's what helped me. I came into U-Turn and I found my identity in Christ. And I got love. I found love. I didn't understand love, and it helped me with my bitterness. And then the direction and disciplines that U-Turn showed me direction and showed me how to handle things and how to cope with things. And like he's talking about, John, this kid that came in here to U-Turn, he had a lot of mental problems, and we're not set up to handle those kind of problems. But coming together with these panelists up here that have different means to meet the mental illness, and then the addiction, and then all the things that coincides with everything that they're wanting to come together with humanity. The call to bringing it together with love. Amen.
Thank you, everyone.
Hello. My name is Kira. Was not prepared to speak tonight, but just wanted to give a little bit of information. Thank you for reading my card earlier. I'm the operations manager for Boulder Care. We are an online telehealth treatment facility. We treat opioid and alcohol use disorder, and I just wanted to let you guys know that we exist, pass out some information. I think when people think of treatment, they think of somebody going to detox, somebody having to wait for a treatment bed, going to a treatment facility. You can do it online. We have an app, people can download it, you can be seen, we can prescribe you medication within like 2 days. So we just want to be a small piece of the puzzle. Some people do need to go to detox facilities, some people don't. And so just want to offer that information. Thank you.
Kara, thank you. Thank you so much. Could you make sure to leave some of that on our partner table? Because tomorrow is a Path General meeting where we have additional partners. They'll be able to get that as well. Any other questions or thoughts before we send you guys on your way? Yes, Pat, go ahead. Oh, Mark, I'm so sorry. So that's what happens when you're on the fringe, right? I'll get you next. Well, I knew that about
Mark,
you.
I'll be quick. So, what? My question is for all you folks, okay? So when I go to and from work every day, I come down Highland, which turns into Vine, and I have yet to see any kind of a parcel of land anywhere on Vine that is reflecting what you folks are saying of what, 6 acres was it, or 5? 8? Okay. The only thing I'm seeing that is even close to that is that parcel on Washington, which is across from the post office. So I'd really like to know where this parcel is that you folks are talking about.
Absolutely, because we've looked at other additional properties. We really like the possibility of the Vine Street property because it would meet all of the basic needs of the unit. But if you're going down Vine Street, look at the container lot where all the containers are. That's the actual piece of property that's being looked at and proposed.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I know where that is. Okay.
It's just proposed. It's not locked in, but it's a preferable property for sure.
Okay. I just needed a clarification. Didn't
Thank you.
see any empty lots anywhere, so now I know which one you're talking about.
Thank you. And Mark, you're up. I know you don't need the mic, but it's good for the recording.
I'd just like to, basically for the record, state how effective these programs are for folks. I've worked with the homeless for probably 2 decades in our community here, and I was a former 2-time city councilor for the city of Grants Pass. But before that, I was homeless, and I stayed at the Gospel Rescue Mission for about 6 months. I'm also a graduate of the first stage of U-Turn for Christ. I've been through these things. They're not easy, but they are effective for those that are serious. And so that's the people that you're looking for. That's the people that this panel is looking for. those that want to come off of the street, those that want to better their lives, those that want to be reunified with their families. So thank you for your participation, for your listening, and for your support. And thank you, panelists, and especially Julie. I can't think of a better funnel spout than her for all of these things to come out of. And you're a great spout.
Thank you, Mark.
I was going to say, I'm going to take that as a compliment. I don't know, being called the funnel spout, but knowing it's coming from Mark, we'll take it. Well, I think that is going to conclude the town hall for tonight. I know some of the panelists will be available. We'll stick around for a few minutes if you would like to talk to any of us individually. So once again, thank you all for coming. Thank you for your support, and we thank you for all of your questions and being a part of this process. Have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to sign up on the way out to get involved.